It was supposed to be an easy job. A quiet farm, an old man living alone, and no one around to hear the gunshots. That's what the cartel thought. They had no idea they were about to walk straight into the lion's den. The sun hung low over the dry fields, casting long shadows as 5 armed men crept toward the wooden barn. They moved with confidence, smirking, already picturing the cash, weapons, and stolen goods they'd take. But they had no idea the man inside wasn't just some helpless farmer. He was once a ghost in the night, a shadow on the battlefield. A retired Delta Force operative. And he wasn't going down without a fight. Before we dive into this intense story, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more gripping survival stories. We're close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, and your support means everything. Now, back to the story. Inside the barn, Frank Bishop wiped his hands on a rag, the scent of oil and metal filling the air as he finished cleaning an old rifle. His hands, marked with age, moved with practiced ease. He wasn't expecting visitors. He hadn't had any in years. But something felt off. The way the wind had suddenly died. The birds, silent. His instincts, sharpened from decades in war zones, whispered a warning. He moved to the window, parting the curtain just enough to see them, 5 figures approaching, their weapons held loosely, moving with the arrogance of men who had never faced real danger. They weren't thieves. They were organized. And dangerous. Frank exhaled slowly. He had left that life behind, but some things never fade. His mind mapped out the terrain, calculated options. 5 men. Armed. Moving in a loose formation. But making mistakes, too close together, too overconfident. They thought they had the upper hand. They were about to find out just how wrong they were. The leader, a man with a scar running down his cheek, signaled for 2 of his men to circle the back while the others advanced toward the front. One kicked the door open, expecting to find an old man cowering inside. Instead, the room was empty. Just the faint creak of wood settling. Dust floated in the warm light. Then, movement. A powerful strike to the wrist sent the first man's gun clattering to the floor. Before he could react, a hand clamped over his mouth, dragging him into the shadows. The second turned just in time to catch a fist to his jaw, sending him crashing into a table. The third scrambled to raise his weapon, but Frank was faster. A sharp twist of the barrel, and the shot fired into the ceiling. In one fluid motion, Frank drove an elbow into his throat, knocking him out cold. Outside, the 2 men near the back entrance heard the scuffle. The leader frowned. Something was wrong. No gunfire, just the sound of bodies hitting the ground. He signaled his partner to check the side window while he stepped toward the barn's entrance. Then, the first body came flying out the door. His man. Unconscious. Beaten. The cartel leader's blood ran cold. This wasn't right. Before he could react, a deep voice echoed from inside. You should have stayed away. The leader hesitated. He had dealt with plenty of tough guys before. But something about this man's voice sent a chill through his spine. He turned to run, then a bullet whizzed past his ear, striking the wooden post beside him. A warning shot. He froze. Frank stepped into the doorway, his silhouette framed by the setting sun. He wasn't breathing hard. He wasn't shaking. He was perfectly calm. Drop your weapons, he said. The leader clenched his jaw. He could fight. Try to take down the old man. But looking into those cold, calculating eyes, he knew the truth. This wasn't a farmer. This was a predator. A man who had hunted before. And if they pushed any further, none of them would make it out alive. Slowly, reluctantly, he let his rifle slip from his fingers. Frank didn't lower his gun. Get your men. Get out. And don't ever come back. The cartel leader swallowed hard. He had never run from a fight before. But this wasn't a fight he could win. He gave a short nod, signaling his men to grab the unconscious ones and retreat. As they stumbled away into the night, Frank watched them go, his grip still firm on his weapon. He waited until they disappeared down the dirt road, then finally exhaled. He had wanted peace. A quiet life. But the world had a way of dragging men like him back into the fight. He looked down at the unconscious man still lying on his floor and sighed. Looks like he'd have to call the sheriff. Again. But it wasn't over yet. Frank barely slept that night. His body rested, but his mind was alert, scanning every sound in the darkness. The distant rustling of trees. The creak of the old barn. His instincts were awake, waiting. And he was right to be cautious. 100 miles south, in a dimly lit warehouse near the border, the cartel leader sat in silence. His face bruised, his pride shattered. His men were furious. "We have to go back," one of them growled, gripping his rifle. The leader exhaled slowly, swirling a glass of whiskey in his hand. He wasn't stupid. That old man wasn't just a farmer. He was trained. He had taken them apart effortlessly. If they rushed in again unprepared, none of them would return. But leaving it alone wasn't an option. "Not yet," the leader muttered. "We'll get him when he least expects it." 3 nights later, Frank was sitting on his porch, sipping coffee, when he saw something flicker in the tree line. A reflection. A scope. They were back. Only this time, they had brought more men. Frank sighed, setting down his mug. Guess some people never learn. He stepped inside, locking the door behind him. This was his home. And no one was taking it from him. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Your support keeps us going. Drop a comment. What would you do in Frank's situation? Would you stay and fight? Let's hear your thoughts. And don't forget to share this video with someone who loves a good thriller.